Joining us now, Semaphore White House correspondent Shelby Talcott. Shelby, what's up with Bongino?
I think that's the question everybody is asking right now, right? Because it is an unusual arrangement to have a co-deputy director of the FBI. And of course, this comes after there was some drama with Dan Bongino being frustrated over how the Epstein files were handled over the past few months. And so the open question that I've been hearing is Dan Bongino going to stay long term? I've heard some people suggest that this isn't an arrangement he's going to be interested in. Of course, he was a successful podcaster before joining the FBI. So will he return to that? Will he stay at the FBI? Nobody really knows as of now, but this is certainly an arrangement that seems to be unique at the FBI right now.
Tell me a little bit more about Andrew Bailey and what are his goals?
Well, what's interesting is Andrew Bailey was actually on Donald Trump's mind during the transition team. He was originally floated as a possible contender for the attorney general spot. And so he has been a close Trump ally over the past few years. In Missouri, he sued Starbucks over its DEI policies. He's done a lot in Missouri that sort of aligns with the Trump administration policies. And so he is a more obvious choice as FBI to work for the FBI, just given his background. When you compare it with Bongino, I know when Bongino was originally tapped, some people were surprised because he doesn't necessarily have the same sort of background and expertise, which is why Donald Trump had originally picked him, because of course Donald Trump doesn't always like sort of the career folks. But this does seem to be a pick that aligns with Donald Trump's policies when you look at what Andrew Bailey has been doing in Missouri over the past few years.
Is there any surprise that Dan Bongino just hasn't been dismissed? Why he's still there, given the fighting with the attorney general? Or perhaps is there concern that if you let Dan Bongino go and get back into the podcasting world, that he's a liability?
Well, I think the big thing with this administration, and we've seen it, is there's a real reluctance to get rid of people, right? This administration is much more aligned internally, even with those internal fights, than Trump 1.0. I've talked to a number of administration officials and people who worked in the first Trump administration who have said, we don't want to repeat the mistakes of the first administration, which was sort of a revolving door at times and caused a lot of external unnecessary drama as they look back on it. I think the other thing is, despite the frustrations over the Epstein files and that drama that played out very publicly, a lot of people like Dan Bongino, and he is very well liked by the conservative movement. And so that matters as well. This is not a case where you have a number of people sort of wanting Dan Bongino to get pushed out. And that matters to Donald Trump and to his top aides.
It's interesting because in the past, when Donald Trump has dismissed people, even if they were popular, he was able to take down their popularity. If they were gone, they were no longer in his orbit, he could just dismiss them and say, I never liked them. And that person was suddenly persona non grata. But this new crop of people that Donald Trump has around him have created whole personalities, whole brands based on MAGA and their alignment with Trump, in some cases becoming extremely popular, like Dan Bongino. Donald Trump doesn't have the same ability to, or does he not have the same ability to dismiss people and diminish them as he maybe once had?
I think it's a matter of he doesn't necessarily want to do that as much because he sees these people as true allies. So in the first administration, a core complaint we always heard was that he hired people who weren't behind him fully. And this time around, Donald Trump, by and large, really believes in his team. And so I think that he doesn't feel like it is necessary because he has a team who are really loyal to the president and his agenda. And you've seen that. And with Dan Bongino, it's really interesting because he really created this following for himself well before Donald Trump tapped him to be FBI director. So there is a chance if he decides to leave that he can go back to that and still have that following. I don't think that following will leave him because he leaves Donald Trump's
but
orbit.
Does he go back and then, I know he's aligned with Donald Trump, but does he start talking about Epstein more? And then perhaps does he become dangerous to the administration? I don't know. We'll see. Shelby Talcott, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.